What's good everyone, OJ here, welcome back to another video, and today we're talking about how the Nintendo Switch can keep momentum in 2020. We've got big shiny new systems coming out from Microsoft and Sony. We've got Google Stadia still sucking, but it got achievements. We've got other platforms that are rising up when it comes to PC. Epic Game Store is going to be doing its thing. There's all sorts of places for people to buy games and for people to experience entertainment, and how's the Nintendo Switch, technically being the weakest of all of them, going to keep up with these other services, going to keep up with these new systems? Well, I think that the momentum starts with the hype, right? The hype and the games. I think those are the two things that really kind of keep things going. What can you do to present to your audience, to present to potential customers that this is a system to pick up? And of course, what are the games that you're going to showcase to create said hype? Now, we already have a few titles heading into 2020. We've got stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Animal Crossing New Horizons is going to be absolutely huge. We got Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming as well, and just do stuff like No More Heroes 3. But what else can Nintendo bring to have more momentum? Well, I think that it really starts with some of their classic franchises. Everyone's been looking for F-Zero. Everyone's been looking for Golden Sun. Everyone's been looking for Kid Icarus. Everyone's been looking for these type of games. And I think that in 2020, while those might not be like the biggest sellers, it will create the hype and the splash that maybe that taps like kind of like the fan base that Nintendo hasn't yet reached yet, right? Those three franchises, classic, old school. Maybe there's somebody out there, or there's probably plenty of people out there that are hardcore into those franchises, and if Nintendo released maybe one or two of them in terms of like a reveal trailer, so if those games are being worked on and we see it, that could prompt them to go out there and get the Nintendo Switch on top of everybody else who's already buying the system. So I think that tapping the classic fan base and the classic games that haven't yet been revealed yet is going to be huge in 2020. Even seeing like Square Enix do stuff like that, right? Bravely Default, that's not super classic, but one of those hardcore RPG franchises that's coming over to Nintendo Switch. And even stuff like Trials of Mana, the remake, right? That is looking absolutely amazing. And yeah, that's not going to sell like crazy numbers, but I guarantee you it's going to get a lot of people who maybe didn't get a PS4, who maybe didn't get a Nintendo Switch, to pick up the system and say, all right, I'm going to try things out. So I think that having those classic games and kind of tapping that nostalgia and that old school fan base to get a Nintendo Switch is going to be very important. Next up, Nintendo Directs. I think that Nintendo Directs, like I talked about with the hype, how is Nintendo going to space things out? And we're talking about the big Directs. Nintendo usually has about maybe 3 to 4 of them a year. We get an early Direct, we usually get a Direct at E3, and then we get a fall Direct, and then sometimes we'll get video game based Directs. So we'll have like a Pokemon Direct or a Super Smash Brothers Direct or something like that. So making sure that they have great Nintendo Directs that are spaced evenly and bring the games is also going to be another thing that really helps out with momentum, really helps out and keeps the Nintendo Switch in the news, because 2020 is going to be different, right? You've got multiple new systems launching, and that is going to take some of the thunder away from the Nintendo Switch, because even if you look at it at this point, obviously Nintendo Switch has been selling absolutely amazing, but you didn't see as many articles and as many videos about the Nintendo Switch dominating sales-wise as you would have seen before the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 talk. That's one thing that I did notice. A lot of stuff got buried when the Game Awards came out and the Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch put up one of its best months ever in November, one of the best months ever when it comes to the gaming generation, this gen, last gen, whatever the case is, and not as many people are talking about that. So obviously bringing the games, bringing big announcements when there is other exciting systems launching, that's going to help out. Now, you're not going to stop that at all, right? Obviously everyone's going to be excited for new systems. I'm terribly excited for the Xbox Series X. I love what they're doing with the system in terms of carrying over all of your library and everything, making stuff backwards compatible. That is just amazing. So you're not going to take away the hype from that, and those systems are going to do well. Like the PS5, whenever they fully reveal that, that's going to be awesome. But what can you do to keep the intrinsic momentum going? So we're going over some of those ideas. I think that there needs to be at least maybe 5 or 6 huge games on the scale of a Animal Crossing. So each year, pretty much since 2017, we get games at least 4 huge scale games. We're talking blockbuster, you know, 8 million plus unit sales games. We get that almost every single year, about 4 to 5 of them, maybe a bit more. In 2017, obviously there was like Mario, and there was Zelda, and there was Splatoon. There was just so many big games. In 2018, there wasn't quite as many of those, but we still had Super Smash Brothers, which pretty much, you know, that takes the cake for everything when it comes down to it. But in 2019, there was multiple big unit sellers. Luigi's Mansion is even becoming one of those. So what is Nintendo going to have in 2020 that's going to be that? Well, we do know that Animal Crossing New Horizons, that's going to be one of those huge games. I think Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild needs to be one of those games. If they can get it in 2020, it needs to happen. That is a huge, big seller that's really going to push things. But I think they need a couple more of those to continue to keep momentum. But what games in the well do they go to? Well, there's always Mario Kart. I mean, who knows how far along the next Mario Kart is in development. A lot of people have speculated that, well, since Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is doing so well, maybe they're not working on the new Mario Kart game or another Mario Kart game, or maybe they're focusing on the mobile game as well, which is not necessarily Nintendo like out there putting all their resources into that game because it's a mobile game. But I do feel that the next Mario Kart game is in development, and it's been in development, and they're kind of waiting for maybe the right time to release it, polish it up, and really make it different from what we've got before, because there's a lot of great ideas in the Mario Kart Tour game on the mobile, not the gacha, not the microtransactions, but in terms of like the carts and the customization and the experience and all the cool stuff that's in terms of like the costumes and all of that. A lot of that stuff could make its way over to the next mainline Mario Kart game. So I'd like to see them kind of explore that more, and maybe we get the first reveal trailer for that game. Metroid Prime is not a game that's probably going to be coming in 2020. Maybe we get our first look at what Retro Studios has, so that could be a big splash as well. It's been a long time since we've gotten a big Metroid Prime game, so I think that that's going to be something that Nintendo can really look at. And I think that even if they take a franchise like a Kid Icarus, or they take one of these other franchises like a F-Zero, if they can modify it enough, they can make that super popular as well. I mean, Splatoon was not a franchise that you would think that would be a 10 million unit seller, and it actually became that. So while Splatoon was new, at the same time, like, I still think that Nintendo can take one of these older franchises and make it big as well. But there's definitely games that Nintendo has that can be that big, huge blockbuster that can help push a lot more systems and keep that momentum going. And I think the last thing that we need to see from Nintendo when it comes down to it is just some more support from like the bigger Japanese companies, right? I mean, we're seeing stuff like Bravely Default 2. I think that Nintendo needs to work out some more deals to get some of these bigger Japanese games to come over, or even brand new games, a brand new third-party exclusives that you see only on the Nintendo Switch, maybe collaboration titles out there. I mean, we're seeing stuff like Ninjala, right? But that's not going to be a huge seller. But maybe they get Capcom, or maybe they get Square Enix to do something else outside of what they're already doing, or maybe even something like Bandai Namco, we see a brand new exclusive type of title. But I also think that something like Bayonetta 3, for example, I think that can be a lot more successful than what people are expecting. Now, I'm not expecting it to be like Animal Crossing or anything like that, but I do feel that that game is going to be 2020, and that game is going to do extremely well because people have been anticipating it. I think that it's on the Nintendo Switch, bigger install base. There's just something about that game to me that I think it's going to show people like, wow, this is like an amazing action game that's going to do really well. Once again, don't think it's going to sell like 10 million units or like 8 million or anything, but I think it's going to do a lot better than the previous games in terms of Bayonetta on Nintendo platforms, just because of the hype that's kind of heading into it, and it's just so mysterious. We just haven't really seen much on the game or really anything at all, so I'm interested to see that. But I also think like the third-party announcements, right? Like we always get like some ports, or we always get some of the major games like The Witcher, like something crazy, right, getting announced. I think that announcements like that are also going to help with the momentum, because it's one thing to play them. Obviously, some of these games are old and everything, but to be able to play them anywhere, maybe it's the first time, that's just something that's special. And I think that's what helped keeps the momentum and magic with the Nintendo Switch. The fact that you can take this big console game and say, okay, well, I'm just going to play while I'm watching watching football, or I'm just gonna play while I'm outside, or I'm just gonna play while I'm at the DMV or somewhere boring, or whatever the case is, pharmacy, waiting for prescription. It's just something magical that's just different that some people don't understand. But when you finally get the Switch and you try it out, or if you travel a lot, like I've been traveling myself, it is just something that you really can't compare it to anything else. There really hasn't been anything like this when it comes down to it. Even like with the Vita and all that, those still felt like portable games at times. They didn't feel like real full-fledged console experiences for a lot of this stuff, and that's what we're getting with the Nintendo Switch. So keep the momentum by having some of those games. It's not going to have everything. Obviously, Japanese support is probably going to be slided more towards it than Western support. We're not going to see a ton of that because they're all getting ready for the PS5 and the next Xbox. But I do feel that there's going to be a few cool announcements here and there. I mean, we do have in 2020 that's coming the Outer Worlds as well, so we're going to see how that game does too. So what are you guys' thoughts on the Nintendo Switch keeping momentum in 2020? What does it need to do? What games are you expecting? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this one here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let us know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for this RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.